Today, we'll be getting into what story Bianca Belair is refusing in WWE, some Ric Flair related topics, Becky Lynch, and more. Let's start things off with everything Bianca Belair related. It feels like Bianca Belair is still very new to the main roster, but at the same time, it does feel like she's been at the top for a while now as one of WWE's biggest stars. She got called to the main roster in 2020. Her direction was a bit shaky at first, but then she was drafted to SmackDown in late 2020 and absolutely just took off. She won the Royal Rumble and of course tore the house down with Sasha Banks at the main event of WrestleMania to capture her first WWE title. She would end up losing the title at SummerSlam to Becky Lynch. But Bianca still plays a key role on WWE television and is still involved with active storylines even outside of the title picture. Her storyline right now appears to be with the newly heel turned Doudrop, so that seems to be her next feud. But Bianca Belair and Montez Ford were both guests on Ebro in the Morning on Hot 97 recently, and they had a lot to talk about. One of the reveals Bianca made is that she never wants her marriage with Montez Ford to be painted in a negative light on WWE television. She wants nothing to do with that sort of storyline. And it's important that Bianca brings that up because history tells us that WWE does tend to play with real-life relationships for storylines. We saw what they did with Naomi and Jimmy Uso, where Mandy Rose was actively and forcefully going after Jimmy, and Naomi had to stop her. Then we had Rusev and Lana, who had several breakup storylines in all these different programs that painted their marriage in a strange light. Lana left Rusev for Dolph Ziggler, and then several years later, she left him again for Bobby Lashley and that entire storyline that everyone remembers for all the wrong reasons. So it's important that Bianca put that out there that she doesn't want anything to do with a negative relationship storyline because it does seem to be WWE's specialty at times. They'll take a real-life couple and often put them through all these sorts of cheating and breakup stories. Bianca Belair had this to say when discussing that topic, quote, "I enjoy doing my own thing. I think he shines as well doing a tag team. And then maybe in the future, he'll shine on his own. We'll see. But it would be fun to get in the ring together and do something together. But my marriage, man, I don't want to play around with that." It's a little bit of a blurry line for me because I just see my marriage as something that is sacred, and I don't really want to play around with it any way that's negative. If we're on TV and we're broadcasting our love, I want it to be in a positive light. End quote. So it does appear that WWE respects that because that's exactly how we've seen the characters of Bianca Belair and Montez Ford portrayed together on TV so far. They have appeared together on TV in the past, and it's always been in a positive and fun manner. Never any drama or conflict there, and it seems like that's how they want to keep it. Bianca and Montez also briefly discussed the story of how they got together and eventually married. They revealed that they met at work in WWE back in 2016, and that Bianca was the one that was making all the first moves. They also talked about how Bianca did make a big mistake. She accidentally gave Montez the wrong phone number. So there was a few days there where they both wondered why there were no texts being exchanged and thought that nobody liked each other, but it was just because Montez Ford had the wrong phone number. So we'll have to see if their paths ever do cross again on television and how that story plays out. Ric Flair has been back in the headlines for several reasons lately. One of these recent situations was with Becky Lynch. Ric Flair tweeted a message out to Becky Lynch teasing how he wanted to make a trip to Survivor Series to see Becky get destroyed, and joked about all her nicknames and said, quote, "There's not enough choreography in the business to save you," end quote. Becky Lynch is usually quick to respond to these things on Twitter, but during a recent interview with the MMA Hour, Becky Lynch explained why she didn't tweet back, saying this, quote, "Look, I saw that tweet, the one that you're referring to, the one that I'm kind of referring to, and I looked at it, and I wrote out a response that would have been quite biting, and I deleted it, and I let it go because I think it's really sad because this is a legend at one point. This legend, a 16-time world champion Ric Flair, is now jealous of me. It's cool for me, and is now trying to use me to get clout to promote whatever he has going on next because he dug himself into a hole with other things. So I was kind of like, let me stay out of it because it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. End quote. And Becky is right, it does sort of feel that way. Ric Flair has fallen out of the headlines following his request to leave WWE, and all the alleged stories that have been going around ever since. So what's the easiest way to climb onto that island of relevancy? Well, just mention Becky Lynch and take a few random shots at her, even though you're not part of WWE's storylines anymore, and you'll be back in the headlines. People will talk about it. So of course, it's unknown if that was his real motive or intention behind that tweet, but that's just how it comes off with a tweet like this out of nowhere. It wasn't even over there. Ric Flair once again responded to that Becky Lynch interview and had this to say on Twitter, quote, "So disappointed. I did this out of respect for you, Becky Lynch. It made you millions and made me nothing. After 40 years of being the man, the company doesn't own it. And neither do you. I'll always be the man. Ask your husband." End quote. What Ric Flair seemed to be referring to there was the ongoing battle for the rights over the man. Becky Lynch started calling herself that back in late 2018, but Ric Flair at one point wanted it to be stopped because he said he owned the rights to the man. Ric Flair referring to himself as the man during his line of, "To be the man, you gotta beat the man." So, with that and everything else, Ric Flair said that he held the rights to the name, and if he ever allowed Becky Lynch to keep using it, she wouldn't have had much impact without the nickname. So that's his claim to helping her career. So that whole situation and Becky versus Ric Flair has been going on for years now, and telling by this recent interaction, Becky just believes he's only mentioning her to cling on to relevancy, so she won't pay him any mind and won't give him that response that he's so desperately after. Ric Flair has also started up his own show, where he's been talking a lot about other topics as well. He claims that he'll never return to WWE, talked about how they allegedly tried making him sign some of his rights away during his time in the ICU, and also mentioned that they're trying to erase his legacy with moves such as removing him from the WWE intro. So there's a lot going on there with Ric Flair, and we'll continue to see how that unfolds and if he will continue to target Becky Lynch. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments, don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.